I may not get any views off of this, but oh well, I want to talk about exactly why the WWE is going straight to hell. Let's discuss. What's up, y'all? It's your boy Beasley here. Hope you all are staying cool, calm, and collected out there. So I want to go ahead and talk about something that I've wanted to talk about for quite some time on my channel, and that is wrestling, specifically black women in wrestling within the WWE. Because throughout history, they have all been mistreated, and if you guys don't know, right now there is a scandal brewing within the company. So a little fun fact about me, I love all forms of entertainment, and wrestling was also a part of that. Like, I fell in love with wrestling all the way back in 2003. Baby, I specifically fell in love with it because of the Divas division. I am a Diva fan. Like, and even as I speak, I'm wearing a Bella Twin shirt right now. I've always loved the Divas. That is what drew me in. Because for the most part, like, in the 90s, I ignored wrestling because it just came off as boring to me. Like, a lot of people think that gay men fell in love with wrestling as kids because there's a bunch of men running around in Speedos, but that was not the case with me. Like, I just did not care. My older brother used to watch it, and I just didn't give it the time of day. But when I got older in middle school in 2003, I tuned into an episode of SmackDown, and I saw the wrestlers by the name of Dawn Marie and Jackie Gay get into a cat fight. And I was just like, oh wow, like, what is this? I continued to tune in, and then we had Melina debut as a valet, and I fell in love with Melina. Melina was like the one diva that really sucked me in and kept me watching week after week. But as I've watched throughout those years, throughout those first like 2 years of me watching, there was like a severe lack of black women within the damn television program. It wasn't until 2006 where a woman by the name of Crystal Marshall debuted. I call her the Halle Berry of wrestling because homegirl always rocked a short do. She was absolutely drop dead gorgeous, just flawless. And she had a walk that would put Naomi Campbell to shame. Now, the thing that I loved about the Divas division back in the day was the fact that it was multifaceted. We had the women that were there to wrestle. We had like the model types that were just there for eye candy or to like manage a male wrestler, like be their valet. Ugh, I miss valets in wrestling, y'all. Like, I love valets. But we had the women that were there for that, and we also had like divas that were ring announcers and backstage interviewers. And Crystal Marshall was brought up to the main roster as a backstage interviewer. She was the first black woman that I was exposed to on WWE programming. Like, I absolutely just loved seeing her on my screen, even though she would be on like little 1 minute backstage segments interviewing other wrestlers. She just had that presence and that appeal, like that it factor. Like, I thought Crystal was that girl. Now, right out the gate, there were issues with her training to actually become a wrestler because once you get hired within the WWE, you go into the developmental territory. And that's where you train to learn a wrestler, and you also go through, acting skills, like how to act, how to talk on the mic, which they call promos. I know a lot of wrestlers kind of take offense to people using their lingo that aren't wrestlers, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to just go ahead and use the lingo and educate you guys. A promo is when you literally cut a promo, like you do a monologue basically in the ring. You go to developmental territory to learn all of that, and homegirl had the mic skills. She just needed the wrestling ability. But they called her up to SmackDown, and she would have to travel down to the developmental territory, like whenever, like on her off days basically. Like, she would have to like basically work on her off days to improve her wrestling ability. Now, that's kind of common within the company, at least it was back then, but it was like a workhorse. And the fact that she tried to wrestle more and they didn't really like let her because they didn't really believe in her. They didn't really see the star power that was in Crystal. Therefore, she was never pushed or taken seriously as a wrestler when she had pretty much the same ability as the other girls that were on the roster with her. After 2 years of her being in the company, she was fired. She was fired mainly because she was dating this wrestler by the name of Bobby Lashley, who I believe was their United States champion at that point, which was a pretty big deal. That belt had a lot of clout behind it. But it was the fact that they broke kayfabe. She broke kayfabe. And if you guys don't know what kayfabe is kayfabe is basically like them breaking character. Like kayfabe is like them staying in character. If they break it, that means like bam, they tore down the fourth wall, and now you're seeing like who they actually are and not their actual character. What Crystal Marshall would do, this is all alleged by the way, but this is what was said why she got fired, is because she was on SmackDown and she would travel up to the other wrestling show under the promotion by the name of Raw, WWE Raw. Ugh. But she would go Raw. But she would go to the Raw show, and then she would show up like basically like where fans could see her and Bobby Lashley being hugged up. But if you guys don't know, during that time, she was actually in a wedding storyline with Teddy Long. So therefore, she wasn't staying in character outside of work. She was seen with her then boyfriend versus her on-screen fiance, and that's why she got fired. They got fired because they saw that she was kind of hard to work with. And during a specific time, her character was taken off screen, and she was going back and forth with the writer's room on like what's going on with her character, like what she like what's gonna happen next with her character in the storyline. And they took offense to that, as in like, oh, like why is she asking all these questions? Like why is she asking all these questions about her own character? Therefore, the writing team also snitched to Vince that she was hard to work with. You know, in the entertainment industry, like when they label a black woman hard to work with, it's just you're on ice basically, sadly. And therefore, bam, she was fired. And to me, that was the first instance where a black woman was pretty much disrespected within the company. And also because usually they announce when they're fired on the website too, so the fans can know if their wrestler got fired. Tragic, I know, right? But they didn't even announce the fact that she got fired on the website. Like, Crystal was just off TV and she just never came back. And you know, there wasn't heavy social media back in 2006. So I didn't find out till years later that she was fired. Another woman that has been severely disrespected within the WWE goes by the name of Naomi. I tried to rhyme that, y'all. It was lame. But her stage name is Naomi, and her real name is Trinity McRae. She's actually married into the Rock family. She's married to one of the Uso twins by the name of Jimmy. You know, the Usos are also the Rock's cousins. She married the cousin. There's a lot of the Rock's cousins within the WWE right now. Now, one thing about Naomi, she has always been disrespected. Disrespected from day one. From day one, when she popped onto the scene, she was just this firecracker, this athletic girl. Like, she just always delivered, like, just A+ matches. Like, her matches were just phenomenal, you guys. Like, I will never forget her first match between her and AJ Lee on NXT. Oh my God. Okay, I'm starting to geek out. But Naomi was just always the truth. She was the truth. She was the women's division's Babe Ruth. Her work ethic was impeccable. In my opinion, she had the total package. Now, I will say she did kind of struggle on the mic skills a little bit in the beginning. It wasn't terrible, but it just wasn't anything spectacular. But she has gotten better. Honestly, though, they barely ever give her a chance to talk on the mic these days. The problem with Naomi is that they always held her back. They always held her back from succeeding. Now, I will say she did hold 2 championship titles, but there was no love and passion put into her reigns. For the most part, they were just forgettable. I think the only thing they ever did for her was let her put her neon lights on the title belt, and that's about it. When Naomi lost her last title, there was no passion put behind her character at all. She just became like, not really like a jobber. A jobber is a person that always like loses the matches and puts other characters over, like gets other characters more popular with the crowd. But it's just like they just use her to guide the newer talent and make good matches, and that's about it. Like, she's never in a storyline. When she was in the storyline, it was just mediocre. She was in a storyline, I think, about a few months ago, but it just there's just no love and passion behind these characters, and overall, like, y'all, I stopped watching WWE because of the writing. I stopped watching in like 2017, like full time, because the writing is just not good. The writing's not good across the board, especially when it comes to the women's storyline, where they're like, for the most part, an afterthought. Like, they try to put some care in there, but for the most part, they don't really care. But Naomi's always overlooked, and this next girl who is her tag team partner is always overlooked as well, and that goes by the name of Sasha Banks. Sasha, you guys don't know who Sasha Banks is? She is actually Snoop Dogg's cousin, but she really became much more than just that. Like, homegirl is the absolute truth, a phenomenal wrestler as well. But the problem is, her career never reaches like the level of her other white counterparts by the name of Charlotte, Bailey, and Becky Lynch. They call these four women the horsewoman, and those are like the basically like the new generation of the girls, like the wrestlers. Like, these girls can really go in the ring. All four of them, Sasha Banks gets treated the worst, mainly because she gets these title reigns, but the reigns and the storylines, they never mean anything and they never last long. Like, yo, I think her shortest title reign was probably like for 2 or 3 weeks. Like, she never really holds the belt that long. It's like they give it to her to say that they just gave it to her. But the disrespect carried on to them two holding the tag titles. Now, I will say about the tag team division, for the longest, we Diva fans always wanted a tag division, but I was always against it because, in my opinion, you could barely write good for one title. Like, these creative writers can barely like write a decent storyline for one title. And then they even ended up having 2 titles before the tag team titles. They had the SmackDown Women's Championship title and the Raw Women's Championship title. So you could barely write for either belt, so you guys introduced a new set of belts. I hate to say, but I always knew that the tag team division was going to fail from the women's side of things because, for one, the head owner of the company by the name of Vince McMahon does not like tag teams. He always breaks them up, and that's what happens. Like, anytime there was like a legit tag team formed within the women's division, it was always broken up. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I would never forgive them for firing Billie Kay and Peyton Royce. Another popular tag team, y'all. Like, I'm being a nerd, I'm sorry. But the tag team division was always treated like a joke, just like the men's division was treated like a joke. But there was no care put into the women's tag team division, like, at all. Like, you can tell that those belts are just given to girls to give them something to do. They put Naomi and Sasha Banks in a tag team because they were the only 2 black girls around that weren't doing anything. Like, that's literally why them 2 were put together as tag team champions. But they worked with each other in the past, and they do also have great chemistry, so it was just the easiest thing to give these girls something to do. And Naomi and Sasha Banks felt that. They felt that they were being mistreated. So last week, they went into those offices. They went to Vince McMahon's desk or somebody else's desk, somebody in the C-suite. They were going into like a main event. A main event is when, you know, like, they're the last act of the night. Like, they get all the spotlight. So they were going to do like a main event, 6-pack challenge. They were going to do that match for whatever reason, and Sasha and Naomi were not feeling it. And I guess there were some words exchanged, and things got to a point where those 2 girls went ahead, put the belts on the desk, and walked out. When this happened, Vince deemed them unprofessional. He basically called them unprofessional on live television. You know, he talks to the commentators, and the commentators basically say what he's saying. So he basically, like, talked through them, saying that what Sasha Banks and Naomi did was very unprofessional. And I'm just like, really? Because just last year, there were 2 white female wrestlers that kind of went off script, and they were doing like a title exchange because they were switching brands. One girl literally threw the title at her, just threw it on the floor, treated it like it was trash. Those 2 girls were not deemed unprofessional, but yet these 2 girls respectfully declining a storyline and basically like telling you, like, we're not comfortable with this, and being respectful and giving you the title back, that's deemed as unprofessional? Okay. Y'all, I hate to make things a race issue, but it just is. Like, WWE has always had a problem with racism. No matter how many times they like to like paint it up and cover it up, they will always have a deep racism issue. The good old boys club. That's who's running the company. Those 2 have been suspended indefinitely. It has not been announced if they've been like let go or not, but one thing I will say, those 2 have been quiet. They haven't been saying anything. I even think I saw Sasha Banks like partying up somewhere. She was partying with some celebrity on some show. I forgot what it was, but Homegirl been moving around. But Naomi hasn't said a peep because she still has ties to the family, the Vince McMahon family, because they're very close to the Rock family. Like Rock, like I said earlier, the Rock has like almost all of his cousins up in that thing. But all in all, it just goes to show you guys the WWE does not really care about inclusion in women of color. Like they do it so they can fill a quota, because Miss Naomi was like the darkest skinned girl on that roster for a very long time. The only positive thing that I can give them is right now they do have a black women's champion by the name of Bianca Belair, but you know, that's kind of when colorism comes into play, because even though the homegirl does have skill, she has talent, would she be a champion if she wasn't light skinned? But yeah, y'all, it's gonna be interesting to see how this plays out. I mean, I don't really watch wrestling anymore. Like, I just keep up with it via the blogs. But I'm very interested to see where this story goes and if these two women are going to be fired or not. Wrongly fired, that is. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the way black women have been treated throughout the history of this company. Those are my views. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I want to come back at you guys with some more content.